Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle Me in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. Been learning some very interesting things lately. I want to make another video on this book. So this will be part 5, series 252. February 18th, 2019. Lots of stuff in the news about Israel. Threats to Iran, saying that Iran is threatening Israel and the West. Threats to Venezuela, saying that they're threatening their own people. So there does seem to be some kind of elite entities behind the scene pursuing the goal of a global world order, a global world religion, a global world currency, and apparently a depopulation event. So what's it have to do with this book? Theodor Herzl, 1896. Theodor Herzl published this book. 27 years ago? The Jewish state. How did all that happen? Why are we where we are today? What else is going on? Threats of EMP, electromagnetic pulse, the grid coming down. I just got a little card in the mail. Smart meters help you make smart choices. In the next few weeks, we'll be installing smart meters in your area. You don't need to be present or make an appointment for us to do our work. As a reminder, all Duke Energy employees and contractors carry photo ID cards at all times. So they want to put a smart meter on the house. So I've been doing some research into that. It's quite ominous. So think about it. Smart meters, 5G, power grid that could come down, EMPs, threats of a possible pole shift, sustainability, climate change, global warming, ice age, terrorist event, and so much more. On and on and on and on. It's enough to wear people out. I wonder if that's the purpose, to wear people out. Got a couple other books in the mail. Technocracy Rising, the Trojan horse of the global transformation. With the technologies they're installing everywhere, it's a little bit frightening to think about it. If you have any kind of intelligent brain at all, can comprehend what radio frequencies and microwave frequencies and X-ray frequencies can do to the humans, we people, and the birds and the bees and everything else, trees. I mean, think about it. You put something in the microwave and you cook it. So Patrick Wood wrote this book. I need to read it and make a video on it. Another one I've been talking about for a long time. The Invisible Crime. Illegal microchipping implants and microwave technology and their use against humanity. Michael Bell. A True Story. So what do you think? We got a problem, Houston? Technology, technology everywhere we turn. Well, you know, you'd think it would make things better, but it appears to be making things much worse. The weaponized systems, President Donald Trump bragging, we got better jet planes, we got better, bigger missiles and submarines and everything. And we can cross the line. Nobody's going to intimidate America. You know, those are the kinds of things that spark wars and have other countries make preparations. And what do we hear from Russia? Apparently, they're making preparations and even displaying some kind of missile that is its own submarine. You don't need a submarine to launch those nukes. They're going to put like 30 or 40 of these nuclear bombs, like a drone, into the ocean. How crazy is that? Probably practically indetectable. They could drive it, maneuver it close to America's coastline and let it ride on the bottom for a while until they want to raise it up one day and go into a harbor. So I think all that rhetoric between the United States and NATO and Europe and Russia and China, all this intimidation is completely unnecessary, but I do believe it's intentional. I do know from my research World War I was intentional. The French Revolution was intentional. The Russian Revolution was intentional. World War II was intentional. 9/11 was intentional. And I could go on and on and on for the past 200 years. There has been a lot of intention to bring us to where we are today. I do not believe that the powers that be have worked so hard to get to this position to turn back now. Bloodlines of the Illuminati, Fritz Springmeier. If you don't have this book, you should try to find it on the internet, maybe at a used book site, or Alex Jones or Tex Mars. Somebody might have it. Big, thick book. Invaluable information. So anyways, I wanted to read more from this book, The Jewish State. Theodor Herzl, 1896, with the six-pointed star and the two blue stripes. What does that mean? You know, when you go up to a Christian church, you can see a big cross out there, etc. You know, you go to a Buddhist church, you might see Buddha or Hindu symbols near a Hindu church, etc. So why would they have this particular religious symbol on their flag? What does that symbol mean? And I've been looking into it, and it gets more ominous as I look into it. I said, oh my, you won't believe what it means. But let me read from the book first. And starting out here, the Jewish state. If we wish to found a state today, we shall not do it in the way which it would have been done only possible 1,000 years ago. It is foolish to revert to old stages of civilization. I talk about all these technologies, as many Zionists would like to do. So who is a Zionist? Supposingly, for example, we were obliged to clear a country of wild beasts. We should not set about the task in the fashion of Europeans in the 5th century. We should not take spear and lance and go singly in pursuit of bears. We would organize a large and active hunting party, drive the animals together, and throw a meteorite bomb into their midst. So what if you can apply that to people? Throw a meteorite bomb in their midst, so they won't get rid of the beast like they would have gotten rid of the beast. And interestingly enough, they call non-Jews Goy and Goyim. And this is not anti-Semitic to say it. You can see it in the Jerusalem Post, jpost.com. Read some of the press releases and see some Jewish commenters referring to we non-Jews as Goy and Goyim. And apparently it means cattle. Cattle means animals. And they throw a meteorite bomb into their midst. Do we have a problem? Are we under threat? It seems likely. A clear and present danger, if you ask me. And a lot of legislation in the works, different politicians who are bought and paid for, proposing legislation to make it illegal to boycott Israel and probably illegal to talk about them in any negative fashion, or Zionism, even talk about trying to enforce some secret laws that were passed called Noahide laws. So definitely outside the scope of the Constitution. They want to throw that into the wind and take away our First Amendment, the right of free speech. And of course, to do that, they have to get rid of our amendment to bear arms and so much more. What's coming in our future? What has happened in our past? Are those fair questions? If we wish to conduct building operations, we shall not plant a mass of stakes and piles on the shore of a lake, but we shall build as men build now. 1896, when he wrote this book, the plan to bring about the state of Israel. Indeed, we shall build in a bolder and more stately style than was ever adopted before. For we now possess means which men never yet possessed. Well, that's an interesting perception of reality 100+ years ago. And of course, the technologies have largely advanced since then, hugely since World War II, when they had the pretend Cold War between Russia and the United States. Hence, they could just tap into the United States government budget, military budget, black operations budgets, and spend billions and billions on developing weapons, apparently, with we goyim cattle, citizens who are non-Jews, as the target, the enemy. So it seems. And I'm not the only one saying this by far. Look what's happened to the people all around the Middle East and North Africa and other places in the world, Ukraine, since 9/11. Does anybody really believe all those countries, all those peoples that were displaced, murdered, and made to suffer, they were all just evil people that should have been disposed of? Does anybody believe that? Well, apparently the people that are doing it believe it. So where does that leave us? Bloodlines of the Illuminati. Some kind of elites who are into some kind of satanic religion. Where does that leave us? The immigrants standing lowest on the economic scale will be slowly followed by those of a higher grade. So they're talking about moving all the people, Jewish people, from all over the world towards this new country, the state of Israel, back in 1896. So do you think we needed World War I and World War II to bring this about? Even in 1886 or 85, Albert Pike, the leader of the Freemasons, the Illuminati, Rosicrucian secret societies, wrote his friend Mazzini in Italy, another leading Freemason, that 3 world wars would be required to bring about the global world order. Where are we today? Looks like World War III is looming with all these crazy threats about how we're going to be destroyed, or the planet is going to be destroyed. Those who at this moment are living in despair will go first. They will be led by mediocre intellects, which we produce so super abundantly, and which are persecuted everywhere. So apparently in 1896, Theodor Herzl says they're producing an abundance of mediocre intellects, which we produced so super abundantly, and which are persecuted everywhere. So they're producing a bunch of intellects, and they're all being persecuted. This pamphlet will open a general discussion on the Jewish question. But that does not mean that there will be any voting on it. Such a result would ruin the cause from the outset. and dissidents must remember that allegiance or opposition is entirely voluntary. He who will not come with us should remain behind. So imagine if you're Jewish and you're reading this. Where would your allegiance be? If you're living in the United States, you can only be loyal to one country. You can't be loyal to two masters. So you're in the United States, who would you be loyal to if you were Jewish? Israel or the United States? If you were living in Britain, in France, in Germany, Brazil, Argentina, who would you be loyal to? All those countries or this mother country at that time without a homeland? So it was a country without a land. And they were planning on getting some land in 1896 when Theodor Herzl wrote this book. Let all who are willing to join us fall in behind our banner and fight for our cause with voice, pen, and deed. So again, I ask, 1896, what is that, 20 years prior to World War I? So they had to bring us World War I, and I have plenty of evidence I put in my videos that it was these groups, the Rothschilds, the banksters, the Zionist Jewish folks, all together, and others, who brought us World War I, World War II, French Revolution, British Revolution, Russian Revolution, probably the Chinese Revolution, and so many assassinations all over the world for the past couple hundred years. You suppose they're finished? I suppose that's a rhetorical question. Of course they're not finished. Some might even say they've only just begun. We haven't seen anything yet. It's going to get much worse. I would hope not, but from everything that I'm seeing and the things that they're saying in the newspaper that Russia is saying, and the things that I see in the YouTube videos and press releases and the websites and the newspapers and the tweets that President Donald Trump is saying, all the indications, and John Bolton and so many others. And even one rally, one guy was wearing a shirt that said, "Bomb Iran." So if a person was to pay attention to what they see and pay attention to what they hear, would it be logical to assume that that's the way it's going to be? Or would it be illogical just to ignore what you see and what you hear? You know, all this crazy information about the smart grid, a demanding use case for 5G technologies, 6 or 7 pages here. 5G network enabling the smart grid. Who controls the power grid in the USA? The dangers of artificial intelligence in 2019. The problems with smart grids, dumb and dangerous. Culture change. Must-see documentary reveals dangers of smart meters. What is the smart grid? Look at that. You got your TV, your refrigerator, your washing machine, your dryer, pictures on the wall, transmitter outside your house. Smart meters. Headaches, insomnia, fatigue, tendinitis, heart palpitations, irritability, decreased immune function, decreased cognitive function, fire risk, safety and security issues, detrimental to animals, wildlife, environment, not green, not cost saving, your private data is being sold. All these, this is just a tip of the iceberg of what you can find out about this. Smart meter dangers. These are multi-page documents. Smart meters and public health. Smart meters. What are smart meters? How do they work? Apparently a lot of people's houses are being set on fire by them. Plenty of YouTube videos. Smart meter collusion between the PG&E Power Company and the Public Utilities Commission under criminal investigation in California. Rothschilds owns this company, a huge energy company, and of course Rothschilds figure prominently in the Illuminati. So all these technologies, all these warnings I'm showing in this video are derived from these banksters, Illuminati secret societies bent on a global world order. You see something wrong with this picture? PG&G now near collapse, blamed for at least 1,500 California fires. There were 80 media companies and now there's 6. So apparently the Rothschilds owns and controls the 6 media companies that send the information, distribute information, what we all believe in the news. So that's just the tip, this big stack of stuff I have here. All these documents. I've got some work to do. And then I'm talking about the creation of this state of Israel, and apparently the power and the money and the controllers behind our politicians and all these huge companies and corporations and world wars and 911. That's not just hearsay. I've been researching this since 2005, and a lot of people are waking up. And apparently a lot of Jewish people in the United States are protesting and saying that Zionism is wrong and they're trying to boycott Israel. So the Zionist Illuminati secret societies, the people who are apparently involved in the six-pointed star, will have to do something to sway the minds of men and women who oppose them. Just like in 911, they captured everybody's mind, caught us off guard. We bought their story hook, line, and sinker. Some Arabs in the cave did that. And now a lot of people know better. So back to this book. Those Jews who agree with our idea of a state will attach themselves to the society. So I've gone over some documents in my videos on this book. This is number 5 video. So that'll be 5 2-hour videos, 10 hours of material. And I've showed that the Kabbalah historically has been the fundamental religious philosophy, belief, faith, practice, rituals of the Jews throughout their history. And a lot of Kabbalists were accused of sorcery, and they were the magicians to the kings and queens and other elites, and of course to themselves for their own purposes. So could somebody, are these peoples using magic, which I would equate with Satanism, Luciferianism, communicating with fallen angels, whatever it is that's going against God's will, can they use these other beings, invisible beings, for power to gain their control over the entire planet and to get all these technologies? And then can they use all of that against us? appears the answers to all of them are yes, 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 and yes, and yes, and yes. Sadly enough. So those Jews who argue with our idea of a state will attach themselves to the society, which will thereby be authorized to confer and treat with governments in the name of our people. The society will thus be acknowledged in its relations with governments as a state-creating power. This acknowledgement will practically create the state. So apparently they have a lot of influence over our governments all over the world. Here's another document, 106 pages. Bibliography, however you say that word, bibliography, of reported biological phenomena, effects and clinical manifestations attributed to microwave and radio frequency radiations. This is a 1972 research report by the U.S. Navy. Navy Medical Research Institute concerning microwave and radio frequencies. 106 pages of all kinds of evidence of detrimental effects. So I have learned something since I've been doing my research. If you see something on a sign that says caution or warning, this is dangerous, there are people out there that think insanely, I guess. They say, wait a minute, that's dangerous to people? We can weaponize that. Biological signs and beware of anthrax or some kind of other plague. They'll go out of their way to get that recreated in a laboratory because we can weaponize that. I remember when I worked at a major aerospace company for 10 years, they had those big microwave dishes, and it said, warning, keep back, you can get sterilized or killed. And apparently somebody saw that sign or another sign like it, because they even had them on battleships near the microwave dishes. Caution, you can get killed or sterilized. And apparently these people who are bringing all that to our reality said, we can weaponize that. And so much more. And so much material I've gone over of them working with psychological technologies to learn how to mind control us, turn people into zombies, erase memories, and get people to do things against their will, hypnotize them, put them in a trance, and so much more. They've weaponized almost everything. What a crazy world we're in. And how can all this be possible? So anyways, those Jews who agree with our idea of a state will attach themselves to the society, which will thereby be authorized to confer and treat with governments in the name of our people. So they're separating themselves from the rest of us, Jews all over the world. Apparently, according to this book so far, there is no way that we can all get along and assimilate and live together. Impossible, back in 1896. The society will thus be acknowledged in its relations with governments as a state-creating power. This acknowledgement will practically create the state. So just like in Britain, Balfour Agreement, and then before that, revolution created by them. It's in these books and many other books I've gone over. And then executing the king in Britain, and French Revolution, executing the king in France, etc. Even people like Abraham Lincoln and President John Kennedy and presidents from other countries all over the world and peoples and wars were all aware to bring us to where we are today, this close to this global world order. And a lot of people are making videos and telling us about the warnings and the biblical prophecies and everything. I'm just another small voice out there. But if people wake up, we could prevent this. All right, continuing on. Should the powers declare themselves willing to admit our sovereignty over a neutral piece of land, then the society will enter into negotiations for the possession of this land. So it all sounds nice, his plan in 1896, but I don't think it worked out that way. Here, 2 territories come under consideration. So they're thinking about 2 places to create the state of Israel: Palestine and Argentina. In both countries, important experiments in colonization have been made, though on a mistaken principle of a gradual infiltration of Jews. An infiltration is bound to end badly. It continues till the inevitable moment when the native population feels itself threatened, you think? And forces the government to stop a further influx of Jews. Immigration is consequently futile unless we have the sovereign rights to continue such immigration. I've said this once, I've said it twice and many times. This is 1896. This is the plan. They've been working at it for a couple hundred years. They had a Zionist Jewish Congress that met at different places throughout the world for the past 300 plus years. This has been a goal of theirs for that long. They took over the banking systems of the world with the Illuminati, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Schiffs, and the Morgans. They took over the Freemasonic lodges, the Illuminati did. It's in this book and other books. So it took them a long time to get where they are now. They control the power system across the United States. They interconnected the whole thing. They're putting meters on our houses that are going to communicate with a central computer and talk to all of our appliances. Apparently, they're planning on putting 30,000 satellites in space that are also on the 5G microwave bandwidth. We will be completely surrounded by these radiations and devices, as apparently from somebody from the government, which regulates the radio frequencies, the FCC, he said all that in the video. Billions and billions of communication microchips out there in the refrigerators, in the TVs, in the radios, in your phone, in your laptop, in your car, in your washer and dryer, all hooked up to your meters, smart meter outside your house, all hooked up to all those microwave transmitter receivers you see when you drive down the road, all hooked up to beast big computers, facial recognition systems. Oh my. If this isn't complete 100 surveillance and weaponized too, if you go look at those documents I showed you, there's a lot of evidence that they can cause people to have heart attacks and other illnesses, and a lot of people who were working at a university in California where they had installed a microwave tower, dozens and dozens of the students and professors all died, and they're putting these up everywhere. And who controls the world right now? Who just got President Donald Trump to say that the United States recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel? And the corporations are using all those occult symbols in their logos and on their web pages with 666 and the sun's rays, sun's worship, and hexagons and 5-pointed stars and everything else. It becomes obvious if you can start recognizing all of that. And I've been working for quite a few years to become, I guess, an amateur symbologist. Symbology, where I could recognize things, and I'm starting to get better at it. So back to this Society of Jews. will treat with the present masters of the land. So they control the countries, they control the banking system, even in the United States and in Germany and in Britain and in France. And they're going to negotiate for the land. And of course, they have plenty of money. They control all of our banking systems and stock market systems. So it's not friendly to the rest of us. They can take money out of that system anytime they want. And apparently they do. And they give themselves billions and billions and billions every year at our expense. All that money that they use to bring about this global world order, destroy all those countries in the Middle East, etc., the NATO and our government, they had to borrow that money from the Federal Reserve, which is owned by them, to fight all their wars, and we get billed the tab. The United States people probably owe not just the amount, the principal, but the interest, over $100 trillion. They'll tell you 18 or 27 trillion, but that's just the principal that you have, like on your house. If you owe 200, if you take 30 years to pay it off, it's going to cost you $600,000 or $700,000. So we'll never pay off the 17 or 27 trillion, but with interest, it's 100 trillion or more. And they will call that due eventually, and that'll probably be part of the collapse of the economic system and the beginning of the depopulation event and the enslavement of the peoples worldwide, with all these advanced technological systems being put in place. Where am I wrong? Apparently there are people that'll give me a thumbs up and say that I'm wrong just because I'm talking about this. Doesn't matter if I'm right. If they create hate speech legislation, it doesn't matter if you're right. The crime will be saying something negative. Doesn't matter if it's true or false. The judge will say that. We don't care what you say. We don't care if it's true. The law says you can't say hate speech. You can't say negative things. They can be killing you, but you can't say it. They can be intending to destroy you, but you can't say it. They can be killing your children in sacrifices, but you can't say it. They can be planning to destroy your country, but you can't say it. Hate legislation, passage of the Noahide laws. If there is this religion that's intended to destroy Christianity, and you learn about it, and it's evil, it's satanic, they actually worship the devil, you're not going to be able to say it. So it seems. The Society of Jews will treat with present masters of the land, putting itself under the protectorate, protection of the European powers. So way back then in 1896, they were going to get the European powers and probably the United States to be their military machine to get their greater Israel. And I've gone over a lot of books on these topics, and it's all in the books. Even Hitler was into the occult. The Kabbalah is the occult. They're all into the occult. It's secret societies. They take pledges under death not to disclose those things to us. A lot of people know this. So this says here that the European powers, America, will help them if they prove friendly to the plan. Well, our politicians, representatives and senators and presidents, of course are going to do everything that they get asked to do, because these people control the money supply. They can take this country down anytime they want, and they have, as punishment for non-behavior. Even between World War I and World War II, it was a Great Depression all over the world. They weren't getting what they wanted. So they needed World War II. And they weren't moving fast enough. So they got 911. Now they want to finish the job. So they're hurrying up and scurrying to install the microwave transmitters and launch the 5G satellites, microwave transmitters, receivers in space, and smart meters on everybody's house. They just got the card in the mail. They're coming to put one on my house. Smart refrigerators, TVs, cars, everything. Pretty ominous situation, if you ask me. And obviously, with all these reports I have, even by the U.S. Navy in 1972, you go look this up. 106 pages. I printed out all that stuff. But other people can go type into their computer the dangers of 5G, the dangers of smart meters, the collapse of the electric grid, and so much more. A lot of people are reporting on this, but nobody seems to be doing anything about it. The fires in California, people seeing directed energy beams from the sky, igniting trees and wires. It's funny to watch. Somebody's controlling some kind of energy beam on some of those videos. Judy Wood, I just watched a 2-hour video by her. She's a physicist, a scientist. And she said there were a lot of anomalies with the buildings at 911. And I watched all 2 hours. And it did seem like there was some strange things, without a doubt. Apparently, inside the buildings, they might have been spraying some kind of chemical, and from the sky was some kind of energy beam, and together the chemicals and the beam made the steel and the concrete disintegrate. So apparently, possibly, they really have some advancements in physics and science, like the nuclear bomb, that they're not sharing with the rest of us. For example, a block away from the 911 Twin Towers, fields and fields of cars were completely rusted overnight, and their engine blocks had disappeared. Now, what's the common denominator there? The engine block disappeared. So whatever they were spraying and whatever frequencies they were beaming on these buildings made the steel girders disappear like the engine blocks on all those cars. And apparently it left this foamy, glowing, red orbish stuff everywhere. And the day after 911, dozens and maybe hundreds of dump trucks full of fresh dirt was brought in there to sponge up all this stuff, and then they put the dirt back in trucks and took it to some landfills. According to Judy Wood, go watch her videos. So apparently we're under attack. So anyway, so if the European powers are friendly to their plan, they'll be protecting them militarily, and that's all happened. And this was in 1896 that Theodor Herzl wrote this. We could offer the present possessors of the land enormous advantages, assume part of the public debt, build new roads for traffic, which our presence in the country would render necessary, and do many other things. I might add, not to mention the espionage and the obtainment of nuclear weapons in Israel through espionage. That was all in the newspapers. But a lot of people have short memories. So they had plans back then for this country. They had plans to control all the other governments, taking over the money supplies. It's in all these books. Many others I've gone over. And we see what's happened since then. Doesn't look good for the rest of the world right now. The creation of our state would be beneficial to the adjacent countries, because the cultivation of a strip of land increases the value of its surrounding districts in innumerable ways. I think I've showed pictures of the greater Israel, the ancient property lines for the kingdom of Judea 2,000 years ago. And apparently it was God that had them exiled from there 2,500 years ago, because they were sacrificing their sons and daughters to some deity called Moloch. And then 600 or 700 years before that, when Moses guided them out of Egypt, and then he went up to the mountain, Mount Sinai, to speak to the burning bush or God, whatever. He came back down the mountain, and they had collected all their gold and built a golden calf and having a drunken ritual orgy, part of their religion. And Moses smashed the tablets and had to go up to the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights to get 2 new tablets and the laws for the Jews. Plus, the Jews had to wander in the desert for 40 years for his punishment. So there's 2 cases. When they were guided out of Egypt, they were punished for 40 years in the desert. And 500-600 years later, because they were sacrificing their sons and daughters to this Moloch deity again, they were the Babylonian king was sent down to destroy Jerusalem, destroy the temple, take them into captivity. Then later on, they managed to get Jerusalem again with King Cyrus. And then they crucified Jesus Christ, and they were exiled and banished from that area for 2,000 years. So when you take that into account and you see what's going on today, and the symbol for Moloch is on this book, and Rephaim, the fallen angel associated with Moloch in the Old Testament, you have to ask yourself, could this be true? Is what I see the truth? Is what I hear the truth? Or should I ignore what I see and hear? How's that going to help us? Get my books displaced here with my mess on the desk. No, seriously, how's that going to help us? The invisible crime, illegal microchipping, implants, microwave technology, attacking people, targeted individuals, TIs. People go crazy. They get attacked by electromagnetic energies and spying, and they mess with their lives and their families and their jobs. So they do know how to destroy people who get in the way. Plenty of people are writing these books. Technocracy Rising, The Trojan Horse of the Global Transformation, Patrick Wood. And so many more. I have 1,000 books like this I haven't made videos on yet. All right, next page, 28. Palestine or Argentine? We shall choose Palestine or Argentine. We shall take what is given us, what is selected by Jewish public opinion. The society will determine both these points. Argentina is one of the most fertile countries in the world, extends over a vast area, and has a sparse population and a mild climate. So here they are, Jewish people all over the world, gaining a lot of wealth and planning which country they're going to destroy and take for themselves. The Argentine Republic would derive considerable profit from the cessation of a portion of its territory to us. The present infiltration of Jews has certainly produced some discontent. So in 1896, they were having discontent in Argentina because of the presence of some Jews. It would be necessary to enlighten the Republic on the intrinsic difference of our new movement. So it's always about education, re-education. For 2,000 years, it's never been them, it's always been the rest of us. That's just, even in the Encyclopedia Judaica, there's nothing anti-Semitic by talking about it. We can't resolve the problem unless we talk about it, unless we acknowledge it and we learn how to deal with it. What's the cause of it? Just like if you had some kind of disease. You don't just say, I'm going to ignore it, and more people start dropping like flies. You do some scientific investigation and try to find a solution. I never see any movie when they had a big catastrophe, everybody just throws up their hands and says, well, I'm not going to do anything about it. Let's just let it go on and on and on and on. But apparently this problem has gone on and on and on and on, and we are where we are today. Where you see with the documents I showed you, the Rothschilds, the Illuminati, controlling what was a couple hundred media companies, now only 6. So the television, the radio, the newspapers, the magazines, the TV programming, the movies. You're going to get things like TV program Lucifer or Gotham, and all other kinds of gruesome destruction and portrayment of we humans as monsters. We've all seen it. It's been going on a long time. We thought it was funny when we were children, and those cartoon characters, animated characters, ripping each other apart, and Roadrunner and the Wolf and all that stuff. It was funny. Hogan's Heroes. It was funny. But apparently the Germans were anything but stupid. After the war, they wanted those scientists and leaders, and they brought them here and continued everything that they were doing. Project Paperclip, MK Ultra, Project Montauk, and so many more. So many books on this. It's all true. Black operations, secret laboratories, Cold War, fabricated, instigation to cause World War I, World War II, all planned by these peoples that were members of secret societies, using the newspapers and deceiving we people, the population. Again and again. Back to this book. Palestine is our ever memorable historic home. The very name of Palestine would attract our people with the force of marvelous potency. If His Majesty the Sultan, this would have been Turkey, controller of the Ottoman Empire, why they had to have World War I and World War II, because the Sultan that ruled all of Arabia, the Arab world, the Islamic world, the Sultan, living in Turkey with his kingdom, controlled all of the Middle East, and he did not want the Jews to build their nation there. He knew the history. But they brought us World War I and World War II, and they destroyed Turkey's control, the Sultan, the control of the Middle East. It was all planned. I've gone over the books. I'll continue to go over it. So if His Majesty the Sultan were to give us Palestine, we would in return undertake to regulate the whole finances of Turkey. So if they could get the Palestinians' land from the Sultan, it says right here in this book, we would regulate the whole finances of Turkey. So this is how they controlled countries all over the world, including the United States. We should there form a portion of a rampart of Europe against Asia, an outpost of civilization as opposed to barbarism. So they were going to use Europe to fight Asia, destroy Asia, take Asia over in their plan here. We should, as a neutral state, remain in contact with all Europe, which would have to guarantee our existence. So all of Europe, the United States, all the Western countries are going to have to guarantee their existence. They've done that. Fought the world wars, and 9/11 destroyed all those countries. And now you know why. Written in 1896. The sanctuaries of Christendom would be safeguarded by assigning to them an extraterritorial status such as well known to those laws of nations. We should form a guard of honor about these sanctuaries, answering for the fulfillment of this duty of our existence. This guard of honor would be the great symbol of the solution to the Jewish question after 18 centuries of Jewish suffering. It's all right there. 1896, Theodor Herzl. Pause your computer and read it. You can look it up. You can go buy the book. I don't make it up. It is what it is. All right, a little bit more to this chapter. So this will be part 5, series 252. When I'm finished, another 2-hour video. That'll be 10 hours from this book trying to understand that these people had a plan to bring us to where we are today, and they have a particular religion, some kind of Kabbalah mystery religion, and I think it might bode well for the rest of us if we try to figure it out. All right, so Theodor Herzl, Demand, Medium, and Trade. I said in the last chapter, the Jewish company will organize trade and commerce in the new country. I shall here insert a few remarks on that point. So does anybody doubt there was a plan in 1896 and before? And my computer goes out of focus. This new camera doesn't adjust on its own very well. A scheme such as mine is gravely imperiled if it is opposed by practical people. So his scheme here for this Jewish state is gravely imperiled if it is opposed by practical people. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm a big fan of practical people. Who would want to make a practical person into some kind of demonized, discredited person? Well, you're going to hear that's exactly what this man is doing. Now, practical people, as a rule, practical people are, as a rule, nothing more than men sunk into the groove of daily routine, unable to emerge from the narrow circle of antiquated ideas. So that's what he thinks of practical people. At the same time, their adverse opinion carries great weight. Well, I would expect people to listen to practical people, like President John Kennedy, etc., all the people that were assassinated. So they do carry great weight and can do considerable harm to the new project. Well, practical people like the Sultan in Turkey said, no way. But we had 2 world wars to take him out. 9/11 took out all those other countries that were in the way of a greater Israel. But practical people are a danger to society because they're practical. You can't make this stuff up, but you can go look it up. All right, continuing on. At the same time, their adverse opinion carries great weight and can do considerable harm to the new project. At any rate, until this new thing is sufficiently strong to throw off the practical people and their moldy notions to the winds. Well, I yearn for a practical people, a practical president, a practical Senate, a practical House of Representatives. And I'm sure countries all over the world would like to have practical leaders. In the earliest period of European railways construction, some practical people were of the opinion that it was foolish to build certain lines. So when I read this little comparison, I thought it was a bit bizarre. You know, some people get stuck in their ways, but look now that they're trying to reverse all this growth all over the world, so the people he's belittling may be right after all. Because there were not even sufficient passengers to fill the mail coaches. They did not realize the truth, which now seems obvious to us, that travelers do not produce railways, but conversely, railways produce travelers. The latent demand, of course, is taken for granted. And again, he's not being honest here, because there was a lot of marketing to get people to go west. They wrote a book, Go West, Young Man, was a popular book that they spread everywhere. And then they had the thing about the California gold rush and land grants. So it wasn't just the railway, because a lot of people made their way in covered wagons, etc. But there was a lot of promotion to move west and, of course, eliminate the native population, the Indians in North America. And they did the same things in Central America, Mexico, and South America. And during the 1900s, not that long ago, they were doing that all over Africa. And now, since 2001, they've been doing it all over the Middle East. Too bad we didn't have some practical politicians. The impossibility of comprehending how trade and commerce are to be created in a new country, which has yet to be acquired and cultivated, may be classed with those doubts of practical persons concerning the need for a railway. A practical person would express himself somewhat in this fashion. So they don't like practical people. And I suppose that's part of the problem for the past 2,000 years. They ran up upon too many practical people. They used to say nasty things about the Germans, that they would ridicule them and point out things that they were doing that was wrong in all of this. And it really annoyed them. And apparently in Spain, they were exiled and banished from Spain, the Jewish population, because their religion and rituals were not compatible with Christianity. Now, what the heck would be not compatible with Christianity? Didn't Christ teach that we're to love one another? Aren't there commandments like don't kill and don't steal and don't do adultery and don't bear false witness and don't covet what other people have? I would think that would be a practical solution worldwide if we all obeyed those rules. We could be living in some kind of utopia, Garden of Eden, if we were practical people. Granted that the present situation of the Jews is in many places unendurable. I guess it means places. I think that is spelling mistake in this book. The present situation of the Jews in its many places unendurable. So I think it meant places. There you go. Granted that the present situation of the Jews is in many places unendurable and aggravated day by day, granted that there exists a desire to immigrate, granted even that the Jews do immigrate to a new country, how will they earn their living? What will they earn? What are they to live on when there? The business of many people cannot be artificially organized in a day. To this I should reply, we have not the slightest intention of organizing trade artificially, and we should certainly not attempt to do it in a day. But through the organization of it may be impossible. The promotion of it is not. And how is commerce to be encouraged? Through the medium of a demand. The demand recognized, the medium created, and it will establish itself. So a lot of planning and preparations and activities have to take place to bring all this about. And since 1896, we've seen World War I, World War II, revolutions in Russia and China, and masses of millions and millions and millions and millions of people killed. Lots of suffering, 8 depressions, recessions in the United States since 1913 when they took over the USA money supply, after not having control for 50 or 60 years and assassinating 2 United States presidents. A lot of people in the United States were aware of all this. It took them a lot of time to take over our government. But when they took over the money supply in 1913, 6 months before World War I started, they had control then. The government, needing money, is going to do what the bankster tells them. These are the banksters, and they do have a religion. Look at that pyramid on there. The crown, the two-headed eagle, the skull and bones, the sun and the moon. Fritz Springmeier, go get his book and read this. If you don't believe me or have any doubts. And so many other books I've gone over. If there is a real earnest demand among Jews for an improvement in their status, if the medium to be created, the Jewish company, is sufficiently powerful, then commerce will extend itself freely to the new country. So anyways, that's up to chapter 3. This is the beginning of the next chapter. The Jewish company outlines. So this will be the 5th 2-hour video. So I had something else I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to continue to talk about because I've been doing research. But I want to talk about this six-pointed star and some other Kabbalistic history that people need to know. And this is certainly the history of the Jewish people, as is I've shown in the previous documents in this series so far. Admitted to and described by these people, and also in this book I'm going to read from now, Morals and Dogma, the Bible for the Freemasons, and you can see the double-headed eagle on there and the crown on top. Morals and Dogma, the double-headed eagle, the crown on top, and if you go down to your local city and look at the Freemasonic building, it has the double-headed eagle, the crown on top. And if you look at the Illuminati book by Fritz Springmeier, smart guy who did a lot of research, there's the double-headed eagle, the crown on top, the pyramid, the sun's rays. So this Kabbalah religion seems to have some common denominator symbols that I've been recognizing. Bloodlines of the Illuminati, Morals and Dogma, the Bible for the Freemasons, and it has everything to do with the six-pointed star mentioned in the Bible. Moloch, Baal, those archways they were trying to put in London, they did put in London and New York City, and later on to UNESCO, United Nations, they were putting 1,000 archways to the devil in cities all over the world. Has something to do with the six-pointed star. Has something to do with the Freemason. Has something to do with the Illuminati, the Rothschilds, the banksters. It's all connected. I've gone over a lot of material to show the connections between the Illuminati and the Freemasons. But a lot of these pictures speak for themselves. You can look up Freemasonry on the Yahoo image site. And this is a Freemasonic hall with a model of King Solomon's temple. A Freemasonic hall with the 2 columns out front, Bose and Joachim, which stand outside of King Solomon's temple. Other symbols are in these halls, I'll show you. Freemasons building King Solomon's temple. Remember, President Donald Trump announced that the United States recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, paving the way for them to rebuild King Solomon's temple. Here's a Freemason. Here's a Freemason lodge. And the six-pointed star on the Israeli flag. It's in the top of this picture. It doesn't represent God, although it does represent their God. A Freemasonic hall. Says Masonic temple. Six-pointed star on the Israeli flag. The all-seeing eye on the dollar bill. The Freemasonic symbols here. You think there's a connection? I didn't make these pictures. a Freemasonic temple. The pyramid in the back, other symbols. Odd fellowship. All these symbols for the Freemasons, the all-seeing eye, the columns. So I wanted to read from this, the Bible for the Freemasons, because it boils down to something I've been debating in my mind. Who is their God? If they pass these Noahide laws in secret in the United States, I think 1990 under the Bush administration. So it's some kind of Jewish law. And apparently they want to rebuild King Solomon's temple, which has a lot of religious, occult significance. And if they want to destroy Christianity, that's a spiritual thing. Destroying 1/3 of the people all over the world who believe in that Jesus was the Savior sent by the spirit world to teach mankind that we are to love one another. So you have to ask yourself, okay, who was Jesus' father? The Holy Spirit, the Father, the Son. Who is the God of all we Christians? Is it the same God of these people who want to destroy Christianity? And can we get some clues by their secret societies and organizations, including the Kabbalah? And I have been going over the information, and there are serious common denominators between the Kabbalah, alchemy, the Zohar, mystery religion of Babylon, Freemason teachings, Rosicrucian teachings, and all the other secret societies, and apparently planned to be the new religion in God for the peoples all over the world, and the people who don't pledge allegiance to this deity, Satan, Lucifer, whatever you want to call them. Apparently the preferred method of dealing with them is by beheading them. It's just crazy to talk about. But maybe if I read some of this stuff, it'll make a little sense. It says here on page 101, the harmonies of heaven correspond to those of earth, and the eternal life accomplishes its evolution in accordance with the same laws. So studying and learning this Kabbalah teaching, this morals and dogma teaching, and the Rosicrucian teaching, it has been an interesting pursuit for me, and I am learning some small things which seem to be big enough to make me say, oh my, I don't think it's the same God. So it says here, its evolutions in accordance with the same laws as the life of a dog. I kid you not. On the top. As the life of a dog. God has arranged all things. So I thought that was funny. They're comparing life to the life of a dog. God has arranged all things by weight, number, and measure, says the Bible. This luminous doctrine was also that of Plato. So God has arranged everything by weight, number, and measure. So that would be geometry, that would be astrology, that would be magic symbols, symbolism, and words, weight, number, and measure, hocus pocus, abracadabra, evocations, mantras. So God has arranged all things by weight, number, and measure. Humanity has never really had but one religion and one worship. So that's in Morals and Dogma. So I ask myself, well, what about the people in India, the Hindus? 1 billion people. The people in China and rest of Asia. Over 1 billion people. So there's 2 or 3 billion right there that are not part of this religion. What about the Christians? Another, I don't know, 1 billion people, Central South America, all over the world. So anyways, they can say these things, but that doesn't make it so. This universal light has had its uncertain mirages, its deceitful reflections, and its shadows, but always, after the nights of error, we see it reappear, one and pure, like the sun. The magnificence of worship are the life of religion, and if Christ wishes poor ministers, his sovereign divinity does not wish paltry altars. So why would Christ wish poor ministers? So I saw that was like a putting down of Jesus Christ. Some Protestants have not comprehended that worship is a teaching that we must not create in the imagination of the multitude a mean and miserable God. Those oratories, those speeches, that resemble poorly finished offices or inns, and those worthy ministers clad like notaries or lawyers' clerks, do they not necessarily cause religion to be regarded as a mere Puranic formality and God as a justice of the peace? We scoff at the augurs, so the people that are predicting things. It is so easy to scoff and so difficult well to comprehend. Did the deity leave the whole world without light for some 20 centuries to illuminate only a little corner of Palestine? Here we have Palestine mentioned. And a brutal, ignorant, and ungrateful people. I'm not quite sure who he's talking about. Is he talking about the Jewish people? Why always culminate God and the sanctuary? Were there never any others than rogues amongst the priests? Could no honest or sincere man be found among the hierophants of Sirius or Diana, of Dionysus, of Apollo, of Hermes, or Mithras? So hierophants means priest or whatever, the ones who conduct the religious ceremonies. So he says here, were there no honest and sincere men found among these priests of this religion, worshiping Sirius, Diana, Dionysus, Apollo, Hermes, Mithras? So they have a lot of these religions or deities they worshipped. Were these all then deceived like the rest? Who then constantly deceived them? Who then constantly deceived everybody? Who constantly received everybody is the question he's asking here. Without betraying themselves during a series of centuries. For the cheats are not immortal. Argos said that outside of the pure mathematics, he who utters the word impossible is wanting in prudence and good sense. All right, now comes the part I wanted to get to. The true name of Satan. The Kabbalah says, he's talking about the Kabbalah, the true name of Satan is that of Yiwa. Reversed, for Satan is not a black god, but the negation of God. The devil is the personification of atheism and idolatry. So he's saying that God is two gods. Satan is the negation of God. And what would Jesus be? The positive aspect of God or anybody else? And the devil is the personification of atheism. But the key thing here that I discovered is the true name of Satan. The Kabbalists say is that of Yiwa reversed. Right below my finger. There you go, where my finger is. The true name of Satan, the Kabbalists say, is that of Yiwa reversed. For Satan is not a black god, but the negation of God. The devil is the personification of atheism and idolatry. For the initiates, the people that are recruited into the Illuminati or Kabbalah or Freemasonry, for the initiates, this is not a person but a force. So God is a force, created for good, but which may serve for evil. It is the instrument of liberty or free will. So I'm reminded of the teaching, do as thou wilt. They represent this force which presides over the physical generation under the mythological and horned form of God Pan. So who is the God with the horns? I suppose that's rhetorical. Most people would understand that. Thence came the he-goat of the Sabbath, brother of the ancient serpent, and the light-bearer Phosphor, of which the poets have made the false Lucifer of the legend. Gold to the eyes of the initiates is light condensed. They style the sacred numbers of the Kabbalah, the golden numbers, and the moral teachings of Pythagoras in his golden verses. For the same reason, a mysterious book of Apelius, in which an ass figures largely, was called the Golden Ass. The pagans accused the Christians of worshiping an ass. So apparently they were saying that Jesus was that. And that they did not invent this reproach, but it came from the Sumerian Jews. So it was the Sumerian Jews who accused Jesus of being the ASS, who, figuring the data of the Kabbalah in regard of the divinity by the ancient Egyptian symbols, also represented the intelligence by the figure of the magical star adored under the name Rephem. So now it mentions Rephem, saying it wrong, Remfrem. Somebody sent me a comment on how to pronounce that properly, but R-E-M-P-H-A-N. So Albert Pike is mentioning all these deities associated with one another and represented the intelligence by the figure of the magical star adored under the name of Rephem. And my last video, after I went and looked up this fallen angel Rephem, his symbol is the six-pointed star. You can see why I'm reading the book. So in Theodor Herzl's book, 1896, and his plans to acquire Palestine, negotiating with all the nations, and we know with this book and other books that they controlled the banking systems and they brought about a lot of revolutions, and they're into all kinds of crimes and drugs and any way they can to get their money. And apparently all their symbols are also associated with the Kabbalah, which Albert Pike here is equating with Rephaim, which is represented by the six-pointed star. So maybe, I'm just thinking here, that they wanted their land back after 2,000 years, and they have gone over to the dark side. Apparently the star means 666. And even gone with Moloch and Rephaim, and it's on their talisman, their coins, the six-pointed star on one side, Moloch, the all-seeing eye on his chest, sacrificing children, as you can see here. So this coin had a five-pointed star on one side, 6 on the other. So the five-pointed star would have been Lucifer or Satan. The six-pointed star would have been Moloch or Rephaim. And they sacrificed children, and that's why apparently God punished the Jews numerous times. And I'm not making this up. You can go look up Rephaim and Moloch and all that on Yahoo image site. Find these pictures, click the links, and get all the details yourself. So we can connect the winged sun with Babylonia, Maltese cross, Knights of Malta, and the Vatican, and the Zionist, and all the secret societies, and Germany. They even put the symbols on our dollar bill. See the six-pointed star, the eagle. So apparently a lot of people are pointing out the star on the Israeli flag is Buddhism, Moloch, Hinduism. Apparently these deities, and even in the Bible, Acts 7.43, no, you carried the tent of Moloch and the star of your god Rephaim, the idols you made so that you could worship them. Therefore, I will send you into exile beyond Babel. So, if the symbols on the flag, and commonly used for the Jewish people in the past couple hundred years, is actually from the star of Rephaim, as it says on this picture with Miley. And also pictures I have that it's also the symbol for Moloch, the deity they sacrificed their sons and daughters to. And Satan, as even Miley Cyrus's father said, that he was concerned about Hollywood's satanic influence on his daughter. And so many other videos. And accusations of Satanism and sacrifice, and belonging to the Illuminati, with movie stars and famous people doing this. And the devil sign, you see it everywhere, and the 3-6 sign. It's everywhere. So let me get back to this morals and dogma. Seeing that Rephaim, morning star, Kabbalah, Egyptian symbols is all mentioned here, along with Satanism, God Pan, the goat-headed god, and the devil, the personification of atheism and idolatry. And they're trying to get a lot of people to be into atheism and deny Christianity and deny Jesus. So apparently a lot of people are recognizing that this is a spiritual battle, and the reason they want to create a huge depopulation event on the planet is all these people will have turned from God, and apparently they can harvest their souls. Recruiting souls for a big spiritual battle against God and the angels. Remember, a third of the angels were cast out of heaven, according to the Bible and many other books I've gone over. So Rephaim was one of these fallen stars. I did go look at my Book of Enoch videos I made, and Rephaim is mentioned in there as one of the fallen angels. FYI. Science, under the emblem of Anubis. Anubis is that god with a horse's head or an ass's head. Anubis under the name Nibis, and the vulgar faith or credulity under the figure Thartic, a god represented with a book, a cloak, and the head of an ass. According to the Sumerian doctors, Christianity was the reign of Thartic. So that would have been the being with the head of an ass. Guess you know what the Freemasons think of Christianity, to put that in this book. Blind faith and vulgar credulity erected into the universal oracle, preferred to intelligence and science. So he's criticizing people like me who believe in the New Testament, that believe that Jesus came from the spirit world, for me having blind faith and vulgar credulity erected into a universal oracle. And so I'm preferring blind faith and believing in God instead of the preferred to intelligence and science. Interestingly enough, we see what they're doing with the science. They're going to use it to enslave us and destroy us. There's plenty of books and obvious activity going on. Weather control, microwave transmitters, and directed energy beams, HARP transmitters. So this is their science, and their science is going to have them being the God. Microchipping people, TI, targeted individuals, torturing people, killing people. Their intelligence and science. What do you think of that? All those other documents I showed. Overwhelming amount of information. All right, let's see if I can find my place here. Synenius, Bishop of Ptolemais, a great Kabbalist, so he's praising Kabbalah, but of doubtful orthodoxy, wrote, "The people will always mock at things easy to misunderstand. It must needs have impostures." Now remember, when I read these books, I don't believe everything that's in here. I mean, some of the information is obvious and some of it is sugar-coated. In other words, they want to praise one aspect of it while they want to insult or degrade another aspect. So obviously he's degrading Jesus and that, and he's praising the Kabbalah. So it's okay to read it and learn something, but realize where he's coming from. And the same thing when you're reading this from Theodor Herzl, planning to bring about the state of Israel in Palestine. We can all see that it has happened. So people will always mock at things easy to misunderstand. It must needs have impostures. Albert Pike says, "A spirit," he said, "that loves wisdom and contemplates the truth close at hand is forced to disguise it, to induce the multitudes to accept it." So a spirit that loves wisdom and contemplates the truth close at hand, this New Age truth they want to teach, this Kabbalah, is forced to disguise it. That's what it says here. And to induce the multitude to accept it. So, forced to disguise it, where my finger is, right there, right here, forced to disguise it and induce the multitude to accept it. So, what all that propaganda and deception is inducing the multitude to accept what they have disguised. Mentioning Lucifer and Satan and these other deity names. Fictions are necessary to the people, and the truth becomes deadly to those who are not strong enough to contemplate it in all its brilliance. If the sacerdotal laws allowed the reservation of judgments and the allegory of words, I would accept the proposed dignity on condition that I might be a philosopher at home and abroad a narrator of apologies and parables. In fact, what can there be in common between the vile multitude and sublime wisdom? What can there be in common with the vile multitude? You know what vile means? And the sublime wisdom. So what can there be in common between we evil citizens and these people with the sublime wisdom? The truth must be kept secret. That's what he says here. I have to show you. I don't want anybody to believe me. The bottom center of this video, where my finger, the truth must be kept secret. And the masses need a teaching proportional to their imperfect reason. Moral disorders produce physical ugliness, and in some sort realize those frightful faces which tradition assigns to the demons. Well, I don't know about you or him, but if I see a demon that's just totally grotesque looking, I reserve the right to be frightened and want to avoid it. Wouldn't you think? The first Druids were the true children of the Magi. So now he's bringing the Druids into this. The first Druids were the true children of the Magi, magicians, Kabbalists, sorcerer, witches, and their initiation came from Egypt, Cladria, that is to say, from the pure sources of primitive Kabbalah. They adored the Trinity under the names of Isis and Hesus, the supreme harmony of Baalan and Bel. There's Bel where my finger is. That's a demon, which in Assyrian means Lord. So Bel was a Lord. And they used to have something in my town called Bel Share once a year when they have these holidays. So Bel is associated with these other demons, which the Assyrian means Lord, a name corresponding to that of Adonai, or Kamul or Kamel, a name that in the Kabbalah personifies divine justice. Below this triangle of light, they supposed a divine reflection, also composed of the three personified rays. First, Tetates, thought, the same as thought of the Egyptians, thought, T-H-O-T-H. So now we have thought in this. A lot of people read up on that God. And the world, or the intelligent formation, then force and beauty, whose names varied like their emblems. Finally, they contemplated the sacred sepulchre by a mysterious image that represents the progress of the dogma and its future realizations. This was a young girl veiled, holding a child in her arms. And they dedicated this image to the Virgin who will become the mother. Hathor, or Wather, the young Isis of Gaul, queen of heaven, the virgin who was to bear a child, held the spindle of the faiths filled with the wool half white and half black, because she presides over all forms and all symbols and weaves the garment of the ideas. One of the most mysterious pentacles of the Kabbalah, contained in the Ecrodion of Leo III, the pentacles, five-pointed star, presents an equilateral triangle reversed, inscribed in a double circle. On the triangle are written in such manner as the form prophetic Tau, that would be the T with the circle on top. I'll show you these things. And the T means divine. The circle on top means a serpent, shows it eating its tail. The divine serpent. The two Hebrew words so often found appended in the ineffable name of their God. I'll show you that spelling. Well, let's see if I can get it right here. All right. The ineffable name, the same row as my finger. Can you see that? Here's another way of doing the ineffable name. And these are the other names. Elohanism, or the powers, Tazarboth, or the starry armies, and their guiding spirits. Words also symbolize the equilibrium of the forces of nature and the harmony of numbers. So they have these Hebrew letters you're seeing here. There's a reason I want to mention that. Those Hebrew names for God, which apparently also means Yahweh or Jehovah. Where do you see this? Well, I wanted to show this because I'm trying to figure out who is the God of this religion coming to our world. Why do they want to rebuild King Solomon's temple? So maybe this will just be a small step to get there. Here's a book with a triangle, and the globe with wings, and the skull and bones. TRY. So it's a book on initiation. The 3 Sevens, a story of ancient initiation. You see the 3 Sevens? The founders of the Hermetic Brotherhood of Atlantis, Luxor, Alphas. Philosophical publishing company. What I really want you to pay attention to is the pyramid. We all know on the back of the dollar bill, zoom camera. Well, let me find another dollar. All right, you see the all-seeing eye and the sun's rays on the pyramid? And remember, the symbols on the dollar bill, in my opinion, are Luciferic, Satanic, Moloch, Baal, all the things we see in our society. Okay? So who and what is that eye? So I've been reading this material, and apparently part of the Kabbalah, big time now, is the Jewish people using numerology. And you see that pyramid in the center of this video? And that would be the Hebrew symbol for Yahweh or Jehovah. It's in the pyramid. The all-seeing eye on the dollar bill is in the pyramid. So can we agree that whatever is in the pyramid is probably connected? the pyramid and the eye. In this particular picture, of course, it's sitting on a bunch of skull and bones. That tells us something. And then the chemtrails, the dumping of toxins and poisons in our sky, that tells us something. It's an association. The Rainbow Coalition, another symbolism, New Age, and the eye. The pyramid, the eye, the rainbow colors. It tells us something, if we want to see it. And, you know, I don't think I'm wrong. The 7 palaces on this Kabbalah symbol, notice in the top of there is the Hebrew symbol for Yahweh, Jehovah. The 7 palaces. Then you have the pyramid, or the 6-pointed star, one period going up, one pyramid going down. The 6-pointed star like on the Israeli flag, with the human inside, and meditation, yoga, the kundalinis, the chakra. Moloch has the eye on his chest. The eye is in the pyramid. Would you say it's connected with Moloch, which is in the Bible? The pyramid, the eye. Guess it's on somebody's t-shirt. The rainbow colors. Would you say they're connected? The pyramid, the 6-pointed star, and the eye. Would you say it's all connected? This is supposed to represent a human heart. With the flames, and then the symbol, Hebrew symbol down below, Yahweh, Jehovah. And the different organization of his name is supposed to be the 72 different ways to say the name of God, and apparently they have magic capabilities. So you have the pyramid and Yahweh, Jehovah. I guess it goes like this. Oh no, it's like that. Excuse me. And here you have the triangle. Come on, zoom. With the head inside in the pyramid and the 6-pointed star. Would you say it's connected? I think it's connected. Jewish mysticism. The 6-pointed star, as you see in the center of this video, with the Hebrew symbol Yahweh, Jehovah, and the 6-pointed star that represents Rephaim, Moloch. You can see they have Moloch here. And this dollar bill. Somebody else has put this together besides me, obviously. And they have the Freemason's apron. And Yahweh, Jehovah in the center. And King Solomon's temple. And the Yahweh in this pyramid on the edge. So it gave me a slight clue on who the God may be. So with that said, I'm going to read some more from this book, The Morals and Dogma. that has the ineffable name here, and some of the deities they call this deity. I'll show you because I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. You can see the Hebrew symbols, the ineffable name. You see where it says that? Across from that red line I wrote. And the other names there, how to pronounce them: Elohayana, of the powers, or Tasbot, or the star, armies and their guiding spirits. Words also used to symbolize equilibrium and the forces of nature and the harmony of numbers. That would be numerology, astrology, magic. To the three sides of the triangle belong the three great names: Adonai, and those other names I can't say, Algae, Ahaya. Above, the first is written in Latin, the Formatio, and the second, the Reformatio, and the third, the Transformation. So creation is ascribed to the Father, redemption, reformation of the Son, and the sanctification and the transformation of the Holy Spirit, answering unto the mathematical laws of action, reaction, and equilibrium. So I read this stuff and I think about it, and I came across the ineffable name in the pyramid, the all-seeing eye in the pyramid, and all those other symbols you saw, the six-pointed star, and I'm connecting all those things, and I was thinking to myself, you know, believing as a Christian in the New Testament, and Jesus rising from the dead, and performing all the miracles, and believing that Jesus came from the spiritual world, and the Holy Ghost would obviously be a spiritual being, and apparently they're all supposed to be one. And of course in the New Testament it said it's because we guess we're all on earth as sinners, maybe on a prison planet as sinners, I don't know. But he says if you want to be saved, believe in me. And of course, that follows that is try to be a good person and the 10 Commandments. So faith in Jesus is the key. And of course, they're trying to destroy Christianity and they don't want to do that. So I just wanted to try to get in my mind, is the Father of Jesus the same God that they're mentioning here? And it says it's not. I don't believe Moloch or Rephaim or Satan or Lucifer are God. And I know a lot of people don't know what to think, so I go this extra mile when I see these things, and I'm reading these books. So Adonai, let's see, I'll go above here where I left off, so I can finish this video another 15 minutes. So the Holy Spirit answering unto the mathematical laws of action, reaction, and equilibrium. Ihave is also in effect the genesis or formation of dogma by the elementary signification of the 4 letters of the sacred tetragram. So I've gone over the sacred tetragram. I'll have to go over those pictures. I don't want to confuse this video, but I will be getting to the sacred tetragram. And that would be all these symbols, magical, that they use for currying favor from the spiritual beings, demon, fallen angels, whatever, and protection, and to get things done, things to go in their favor, like taking over a company or wars or whatever. That's why in like 911 and all these other things, it happens on special days aligning with numerology, astrology. This is all magic and witchcraft. So the sacred tetragram, Adonai, is the realization of the dogma in the human form in the visible Lord, who is the Son of God or the perfect man. AGLA, formed of the initials of the 4 words, expresses the synthesis of the whole dogma and the totality of the Kabbalistic science. Kabbalistic science. And I'm thinking about all the scientific technologies they're weaponizing right now, planning on a global world order. Clearly indicating by the hieroglyphs with which their admirable name is formed, the triple secret of the great work. The triple secret of the great work. Masonry, that's what it says here. This is a Freemasonic Bible. Masonry, like all the religions, all the mysteries, Hermeticism, alchemy, conceals its secrets from all except the adepts and sages or the elect, and uses false explanations and misinterpretations of its symbols to mislead those who deserve only to be misled. So they want to deceive all of us that deserve to be misled. To conceal the truth, it says here, which it calls light, from them, and to draw them away from it. So apparently to draw us away from the light. To conceal the truth, which it calls light, from them, and to draw them away from it. I thought Freemasonry was to share the light. Truth is not for those who are unworthy or unable to receive it or would prevent it. So God himself incapacitates many men by color blindness, but to distinguish colors, and leads the masses, that would be we citizens, away from the highest truth, giving them the power to attain only so much as it is profitable to them to know. Every age has had a religion suited to its capacity. The teachers, even of Christianity, are in general the most ignorant of the true meaning of that which they teach. Better read that again. The teachers, even of Christianity, are in general the most ignorant of the true meaning of that which they teach. And remember, the Freemasons are extensions of the Zionist Jewish Kabbalists, folks. They teach the same Kabbalah material. This is what they think about Christianity. Ignorant of the true meaning of that which they teach. And that's why I take the time out to try to learn this. I started my investigation into psychic research just because I found out when I was studying a lot of the historic scientists and famous men of long ago, I found out a lot of them were into psychic abilities and those kinds of things, using a dowser, the stick to find water, and healing people, and even with Jesus Christ. So I wanted to look into psychic research. And then I came across this huge deception and plan for a global world order, bringing us world wars and 9/11, and destroying good people, stealing their wealth, sacrificing their children, pedophilia, raping, killing men and women and children. So apparently I don't think this is the God of Jesus, in my opinion. But maybe in Sodom and Gomorrah and those angels are part of the problem. Fallen angels. So it makes you wonder about this. So to lead the masses away from the highest truth, giving them the power to attain so much of it as it is profitable to them to know. Every age has a religion suited to its capacity. There is no book of which so little is known as the Bible. There is no book that so little is known as the Bible, he says. To most who read it, it is incomprehensible as the Zohar. That would be the Jewish Kabbalah interpreted book. So several books were interpretations of the Kabbalah. And apparently the Kabbalah was a Jewish version of the ancient religion of Babylon, mystery religion of Babylon. I see Bill Cooper talked a lot about that in his videos. So Masonry jealously conceals its secrets and intentionally leads conceited interpreters astray. There is no sight under the sun more pitiful. So there is no sight under the sun more pitiful and ludicrous at once than the spectacle of the Prestons and the Webbs, not to mention the later incarnations of the dualness and commonplace undertaking to explain the old symbols of Masonry and adding to and improving them and inventing the new ones. So do some people really want to try to convince me that Masonry is not a religion? And it says here, and I have some other evidence. This is something you can look up on the internet. But this is Albert Pike, the guy who wrote Morals and Dogma. Focus! Well, I guess I'll have to rate it. That which we must say to the crowd is we worship a God, but it is the God that one adores without superstition. To you, Sovereign Grand Inspector General, so he's telling the public that he worships a God without superstition. But he says to the people of the 31st and 30th and 32nd degrees, the Sovereign Grand Inspector General, we say this, that you may repeat to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degree that the Masonic religion, here's what he says here, should be, by all of us, initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. If Lucifer were not God, would Adonai, so they're calling Adonai Jesus, culminate, spread false and harmful statements about him. So when Jesus said bad things about the synagogue of Satan, he's saying he said that because he was hated him and he didn't want the truth that Jesus was actually the bad guy and the Lucifer was the good guy, if you want to believe that. But apparently people who get in the high degrees of Masonry, that's what they're taught. That's what it says here. Yes, Lucifer is God. General Pike, 30 degrees. So you go on Albert Pike. Now it focuses okay. How do you like that? So he says on the bottom, Lucifer is God. We've all seen the TV program Lucifer. And Lucifer in all the movies is always making deals for people's souls. Satan. So let me just finish from this book. So Masonry jealously conceals its secrets. And if Lucifer's their deity, Satan, I guess they would conceal their secrets. And all these other people with the pyramids and the all-seeing eye and pursuing a global world order and all these secret societies, I guess they would want to keep it a secret. And what would be behind a group of people wanting to take all the land from the entire Middle East? It was never intended just to get a little sliver of land. Murder all those people. Conspire behind the scenes with our leaders and blackmailing people and putting them in positions where they had to do it because they controlled the money to bring us World War I, World War II, French Revolution, executing the King of Britain, the King of France, and abducting the Tsar, the leader of Russia, and his family, taking him to an old country house and executing all of them, and then proceeding to kill 100 million people, they say, in Russia between World War I and World War II. And then after World War II, apparently NATO, working for the secret societies, gave half of Germany and all those other countries in the Balkans to be behind the Iron Curtain to the Jewish Bolshevik controlled country of Russia. It was worse off for those countries than what Britain said that Germany threatened. What kind of deity would it be? Just saying. What would it be? What does it say here in this book? What about the plans here in 1896 with Theodor Herzl? And the next chapter is the Jewish company. So they created a company, corporations, to help all the Jews liquidate all their assets for the past 100 and something years to get the Palestinians land. None of this was an accident. It was all intentional. One more sentence. To the circle enclosing the central point. Have you ever seen a circle with a little dot in the middle? That's their sun god. Itself traced between two parallel lines. A figure purely Kabbalistic. So a circle with a dot, the sun god, between two lines is Kabbalistic. So would this star of Rephaim and Moloch between two lines also be Kabbalistic? And I've gone over that other document, which we'll go over again and again and again, where there are many documents that say the Kabbalah historically has been the religious philosophy of the Jewish people. So have been barred from returning to Jerusalem. Have these people made a deal with the devil? Thank you for watching my video. Leave a comment below. I'm open-minded. I don't hate Jewish people. A lot of Jewish people in the United States are fighting this also. You can go look up Yahoo image site, and a lot of Jews have posters that say Zionism is not Judaism. In the Bible it says on Revelation 2.9, 3.9, Jews who call themselves Jews but are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan, and so much more. So maybe these people are just Satanist, Luciferian, Kabbalist, witchcraft, sorcery, fallen angels as their deities. I pray for everybody to wake up. And it does seem to create a very bizarre, disturbing world we live in, and the future looks pretty bleak for what they have planned. Rick Merico reporting.